Just double check. Awesome. So we'll go ahead and get into it. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight. This is, I think, our fourth or fifth, maybe at this point, webinar in this series. So we're seeing a lot of familiar faces, but definitely have some new ones here, which is great. Tonight we're going to be continuing kind of our rotation. As you guys have kind of figured out, we're rotating through each of the major modules, talking about the new features as they go. This time we're going to be talking about Dispatch, which has experienced a decent amount of changes in the last two releases. Don't be scared. They're all functionally roughly the same, but we realized during the LA fires and during some of these larger incidents that some of the workflow was a little bit, I'll call it clunky, and people were getting kind of results they weren't expecting when doing debriefing. So we're also going to be talking about that. So I will start sharing my screen here. And we're going to start. Everyone's favorite is the hotline module. Nothing has changed here. I just want to give you kind of an idea. We're going to do a pretty simple exercise here where I've created 5 SRs that exist in my glorious town of Chico, and we're assuming everyone's under evacuation, but just kind of gives you that context. So as I go and click into the dispatch module, nothing yet has changed at all. So don't be alarmed. You have not seen anything different quite yet. Once we go into deploy teams, I'm going to start pointing out some of the differences. So you still have your big map on the right-hand side. You can still move this around, zoom it in, and it'll change the list just as before, which is great. We have now added the ability to see the icons here. So if you click this, it'll kind of give you that secret decoder ring version, which we realized was just kind of missing from this page. We show it in a lot of other places. But if you're like, man, what does that little red house icon mean? You can now find that in this little tooltip up here. As I go down, you can see here's our 5 calls. One of the main things that we've been adding is different tools to allow you to change and sort and filter these service requests. And that's the main thing that I want to get into on this page. Is right now we've got 5 service requests, but right here in our options menu, we actually have the ability to start kind of manipulating that data. So I'm going to start with the right-hand button here. And as I hover over it, you can see it says sort options. If I click on that, it's going to bring up our 2 ways to, by default, sort all the service requests that you're viewing. So the default for everyone is follow-up date first. So the oldest follow-up dates are going to be at the top. So if I close this out, you can see, oh, yep, I see 818, 818, 818, oh, 819, and then 820 down below. So they're sorted in descending order from oldest to newest, which is great. Let's say that's not the way that you want to start to think about your data. You can then click back in here, and you can see the other one is priority. I'm going to actually close this again and show you that priority is shown by these little icons here. We've recently reduced the total number of priorities. There used to be 5, but now there's only 3. So double up arrow means urgent. That is the highest priority. The single up arrow here means high priority. High priority. This one is a low priority, and then again, urgent. So those are just the 3 different priorities that we're going to be able to see. So right now we're sorted by follow-up date, as you can see here. And by definition, the second one is always going to be priority right now. So it goes follow-up date and then priority. And we can double check that. So we see our 3 818s at the top, and at the very top is our urgent one. So giving you that context to be able to know that I am seeing at the very top the most urgent and oldest service requests. Now, if I switch this and switch this to sorting by priority, we see that these 2 urgent requests are now at the top, even though this one is actually due in 2 days. So in this case, the priorities are first now. The sorting is now first by priority, and then follow-up date, which is why this one's still at the top, and then this one is below it. So it's just a way to start to kind of think about how you want to sort your data, make sure that you're not missing anything. The worst possible combination is that there's a truly urgent call, that the follow-up date has been set incorrectly. Maybe somebody misclicked, or somebody retyped it, or tried to type it in by hand and put in 9 instead of 8, and now you've got a call out there. So this is a way to kind of just double check and sanity check. And if you just have different organizational preferences on how you want to start. I'm going to put this back to follow-up date because that's how my brain works. And so we're going to see the first three again are 818 at the top, and then 819 and 820. So that is a great way to just start to get into the mix. And again, you can actually see both of those values here, but we just allow you to sort them. So again, the urgent icons are right here, or the priority icons are right there, and they're kind of conveying that information, but you can now also sort. So that's helpful to a certain extent, but now we've still got 5 service requests. I can change the way that they're ordered. But what if I actually want to start looking for specific types of service requests? So over here is where we've introduced the idea of filters to this page. And so right now, if you click in here, you can actually start to filter by priority, setting a range of follow-up dates, and you can start to select species. And then the last one, which we're going to expand on in the next release as well, is some of the attributes of the service requests themselves. And in this case, special handling required, meaning I want to just see the service requests that have animals that require special handling. I'm going to mess with just priority first, just so you can kind of see the way that it works. So we know we have a couple of urgent calls. I'm not concerned about follow-up date. I know we've got our sorting all set, but I just want to only see the urgent calls. So as soon as I click this, you can see they've filtered in the back. And now I know I only have my 2 urgent calls. And what's really nice is geographically, I can see if they're near each other. And this starts to paint a really good picture of how you can start to prioritize your work. Again, we're only looking at 5 service requests, and there could definitely be more. But this is the first kind of layer that you can do. I will say that these are many selects. So you can go, I want to see all the urgent and high. And as you can see, now we're back to 4 service requests. And again, kind of start to draw out. Another cool way that you could potentially use that is I'm going to go back. I'm going to take out the urgent one, or sorry, take out the high. I'm going to go, okay, I know I really need to get to this neighborhood. I've reviewed this call. Oh, that's a lot of animals. That's urgent. I know we want to go there. If you select it, it turns green. Then you can add your high calls and see if there's anything in the neighborhood near it. And that way you can build out a fuller assignment. And it's just a way to start to think about how to slice and dice your data. This is kind of how I organize my brain when I'm working on these large incidents, is we kind of find some anchor calls or some anchor neighborhoods. And now I know I have a great assignment because I know these are right next to each other geographically. And I know I have an urgent one that needs to be serviced, and there's a high one right next to it. So that becomes a really good package to build out. So I'm going to uncollect these, and we'll come back to that scenario. So we'll remember those 2. But I want to just show you guys the other filters. So going down to follow-up date, this allows you to select follow-up date ranges. This can be helpful, especially in any incidents where you're dealing with an extended initial response is what we'll call it. But we all know when they block us out and don't let us get in on that initial day, this is a good way to figure out which ones are the oldest. And so in this case, I would, because I know I have a couple in the future, it might make sense to say I only want to see things that are due today or before. And in this case, as soon as I do that, we can see we only have the 2 that were due today, thus telling us we don't have anything in the backlog. If there was one that had a previous follow-up date, it would actually highlight in red here as well to give you some indication, and it would be the top of the list because right now I'm sorted by follow-up date first. This allows you to select a range. Again, you could go back and say, okay, I only want calls from the last 2 days. You can mix and match this. We just wanted to expose and make it as much as functional as possible. The next one that you can see here is species. So I'm going to close this. So we can zoom all the way back out and get our 5 calls. So species. So now I want to see all the calls that have at least 1 horse is what you're saying here. And so I've selected horse, and now you can see I'm seeing all the calls that have at least 1 horse associated to them. Another really good way to start building out your assignments. I think we're going to play with this a little bit further as well and start to think about potentially like a large animal category or something like that. Doesn't exist yet because we don't have that idea in Shelterly, but that's kind of the direction we want to go, and that's kind of the intention. So now you kind of have to build your own common list of like, all right, I want to see all the calls with at least 1 horse or a cow or maybe some sheep. And as you notice down here, I have 3 animal species selected. All of these are showing. So this is not saying give me the calls that have a horse and a cow and a sheep. It's just saying show me all the calls that have at least one of these things. If there's demand for kind of more of an and, this is definitely an or operation, we can think about that in the future, but we really just don't want to make sure data is disappearing when we're not intending it to. So right now we're just kind of looking for any of the calls, and it gives us a more powerful tool to look for any of the calls that kind of have these larger animals and what we know is common in our area. And then this last one is special handling required. This is actually exposed. This icon is going to change in the next release, but it's this little badge icon right here. And it's kind of telling us that at least one of these animals is probably aggressive or potentially an exotic animal requiring some kind of special skills. We don't explicitly say what those are here, but it's just an indication. It should be in our brain of going, oh, that's a special call. Let me dig deeper. And so when you see that, I do want to show you that there are the ability to, I'm going to go to the questions. Katie, I just saw yours. That's one of the features we're adding in this upcoming release is exactly that, is adding all of these filters here and allowing you to filter to them. But as you come here, you can actually hover over this little clip pad, and it's going to give you the notes about the service request to just give you some additional context if there are notes. So you can see here, family was able to leave enough supplies for one day. Please recheck on 8/19. That's why this one's a little bit of a low priority. You can't see exactly why there's special handling here, so you might have to do a little bit deeper dive because it wasn't cataloged in the service request note. But again, just as a reminder, that gives you the ability to kind of know that those are going to be special cases, and you might want to investigate them a little bit before you just send a general volunteer out there to do the work. So you can turn on, I've done these one at a time, but there's no reason that you have to do it that way. You can actually start stacking them as much as you want. And so in this case, now you can see I've got a priority of low that has at least one horse and has special handling required, and we're only down to one service request. So pretty easy to work with. Expect these filters to get more expanded over time. This is a really powerful feature and allows us to do really important things during large disasters. A lot of this was pen and paper, me keeping track of things during LA, and we want to just start exposing those features. So I'm going to zap back out here. We're going to zoom back into our neighborhood up here and build this one we talked about. We have that high priority anchor that we can see, or the urgent priority anchor, sorry, and then our high priority call right next to it. They're a little bit different, but I think we're going to go with it for now. So the other big thing that people may notice, and a lot of people haven't done the dispatch map as much as some others. There used to be two dispatch maps. There was a pre-planning one and then this one. Those have now been combined. And the way to make what we call a pre-plan, meaning I know I want this work to get done, but I don't know who's going to do the work currently, is what we can do for a pre-plan. I'm going to pre-plan this one. And that's something that we're starting to talk about in the care workshops that we're putting on, is about pre-planning our work and starting to think strategically about how much work can be done versus exactly who's going to do the work. So I'm going to pre-plan this one. So if I click this without adding any team members, it's going to make a pre-plan assignment. And here we are. So now we've made our dispatch assignment, and this is number one. The things you'll see here is a little mini map. You can hover over and get the same detail as before. Historically, kind of the next step is to go into this actions menu, and there was a resolve dispatch assignment button in here. That has now changed, because that used to take you to a giant page where you had to scroll down, you had to try to find your service request. And what we've instead done to simplify this, and this is a big change, but functionally kind of operates the way we were trying to use it, is that instead each service request, you're actually going to go in and add a visit note. So as you're resolving these, as your teams are coming out of the field, this is now how you engage with these. If you want some additional detail, we actually have a bunch in here that we're showing, but we kind of roll it up to make your lives a little easier. But in here, we have the ability to go action, add visit information. And this is where you're going to debrief your team coming out of that call. So right now, I don't have a team assigned, which I probably should have done before this. So I'm just going to show you this. We're going to go back to that and come in here. But I just wanted to call that out as we got to that landing page, this is where we start to see the kind of change and how you get into the debrief. So I'm going to pop back out of here. We're on our dispatch summary. When I go back to the dispatch landing page, you'll see that we now have a dispatch assignment sitting over here in our pre-planned area, which is great. I'm going to do a fast forward version here where I'm going to assign the other two just to show you guys how that works. So I'm going to build this one's over here by itself. I'm actually going to put a person to do that work really quick like. And just to give you an example of how fast dispatching can become. And then I'm going to grab these two. Actually, I'm going to grab this one. And I'm going to give it to our friend Leonardo da Vinci, doing some great work. So now I've quickly built 3 dispatch assignments using geography, using our filters, using our sorts. And when I come back here, one of the new things you'll notice is these icons look a little bit different. And that's intentional. So you see that these are colored dots. And this is going to start to give you the understanding of where these teams are in the field. Before, these all used to be the same icons as everywhere else, and it was really hard because there was just red dots everywhere. And now you can start to see all the purple dots are associated with dispatch assignment number 1. All the brown dots are dispatch assignment number 2. And then these yellow ones are dispatch assignment number 3. In here, it's telling you that these ones have teams assigned to them. And then this last little icon over here is telling you if that dispatch assignment has been kind of resolved or if it still has pending action. So I'm going to go into DA number 2 here, which is one that I just made. And it only has 1 service request. So this is telling us, again, kind of the icons match. Service request visit information is still pending. So I'm going to go in here, and I've got my team right in front of me. Team was able to access and supply food, water, need revisit in 2 days. So while you're doing the debrief, you have the ability to add additional animals. This is what we call a support service request, where this guy just requested food and water. He is going to distribute it to his neighborhood. And so he just asked us to come back in a couple of days. So we scroll down here. You can update this if you want to. In this instance, now we might have more information, 40 pounds of food each visit, and that could be useful information for our team coming back later, and this will get updated. And then the last little section at the bottom, and again, most people haven't done debriefing, so this won't be like, oh, wow, this completely looked different. To me, it is, because I did a lot of debriefing, but I also built this, so I'm pretty comfortable with it now. And the last thing you have to do is kind of sign the end of your form to say, yep, everything is great. I want to mark this visit as complete. It's going to put the date completed to today. We're going to go in here and we're going to put that follow-up date out 2 days. In this case, it allows you to update the priority. We're going to actually bump this down. We had the initial urgency, but now we've got food and water out to them. We're going to change this to high. And this last little one, we're going to keep this service request open. And so now, after I save that visit, you can see this little green check mark, or sorry, not green, but this little check mark turns here, which is great. So now if I go back to our dispatch landing page, you're going to see the same thing. It's like, oh, all the work has been done in this dispatch assignment. We haven't closed it yet, so it's still showing up here, but we know all the work has now been entered and it's ready to be closed at the end of the day. And this is a good way to leave everything open, so we got a good picture of everything we've been working on the day, but still have a good understanding of what is out of the way. Awesome. So I'm going to hop into dispatch, our pre-planned one here, and show off a little bit. This is going to be, like I said, there's a lightning round version of all of this because there's a lot of functionality in here. But in this one doesn't have a team yet, but I'm actually going to add some people. So you have the ability to add a team member. See if I'm in here. I'm not. My alter ego? No. Apples and bananas it is. And Mary Smith, we're going to add them. And we're going to give them a team name. And so now I've added a team name there. We can see they have their 2 service requests. As they come out of the field, we can continue to debrief them like we just did, and those will show up. But once I add a team number, once I add team members, this one will pop up into the active because now we've assigned people. And so it's popped out of the pre-plan. It's up here. We know that it has some outstanding work, which is great stuff. Awesome. So the next thing that I want to show you guys is actually a really cool feature, which is we're going to come in here. And we've got a couple service requests here. We know right now, because this one we actually resolved and pushed that service request out, it's ready. It went back into the pipeline, which is great. But we know it's not actually due for 2 days. So that might start to mess with us. This is where we can start to use the filters in a more helpful way. And I want to say, all right, again, I only want to see the ones that are due today or before. Now we got that one out of our picture and we've kind of cleared off the screen. And we're like, oh, this one, let's pretend this one just came in. We're like, I have a team somewhere in that area. Was it these guys? Oh, maybe. No, those guys are way up there. So as I'm adding these teams, it's actually putting gray check marks for where the work is they're currently doing. And so as I go back to Leonardo, we're like, oh, that's the team that I actually want to assign this to. And so you can see geographically they're near each other. We've got the green one that we want to assign. And what we're going to do is actually add it to Leonardo da Vinci's work for the day. So instead of having to like make a new one, you're able to assign it to existing work and also make sure that it's similar. As you hover over this, you can double check. Oh yeah, it's got 2 animals. This looks great. Follow up date, same kind of matchy-matchy. And this button now, instead of saying pre-plan or instead of saying deploy, now it says assign. And when I do that, it'll actually assign it. And so now this dispatch assignment, instead of having 1 service request, now has 2. And so this allows you to continually add work throughout the day as you get calls coming in. So these tools have become a lot more powerful, as you guys can kind of see. But again, things that are really useful for us to run at large scale are just as useful when we have, 20 service requests or 1,000. Like all these tools are built to scale for the same thing. The last thing that I want to show in this whole arena is I'm going to go back to our landing page. This one here now has its 2, as you can see. Now instead of just having the 1 dot, that's the extra one we just added. But I'm going to go into this one. We're going to say, oh, it's the end of the day. Dispatch assignment number 2's already got a green check mark. I come in here. You can update the service information, but we're not going to worry about that right now because the last thing that you have to do is once all the service requests have the green, I keep saying green, but just check mark. Maybe I should make it green. Is that allows you to then close that dispatch assignment, which is going to fully release all that information and take it off of your board so that you know that all that work has been done. So I'm going to do that. Are we sure? I'm ready. So now this one is closed. And when I go back to the dispatch page, it's popped off of our board. So we know all that work has cleared off. Awesome. So that was a lot of information to cram in, but I want to leave some questions and answer time because I think there's already a couple. Okay, so which incident are we in? Yep, and Christina already answered that. This is just one that I made for this training exercise, so it's inside of our Shelterly organization, so not accessible for you guys to follow on. But and then Katie, yeah, exactly. I kind of answered that midstream because I'm excited about that, but I'll go back in here. In the filter options, we're going to have the ability to filter for calls that are turnaroundable, or accessible, as well as verbal liability release, which is the last one. So if I go into a service request and do the bottom form, we're going to allow for filters on all of the attributes that are shown down here ultimately as well. And those are going to become, these right now are binary, meaning they have to be true or false. And we're actually changing that to what we call a trinary, meaning unknown, true or false, because that's actually giving us some kind of false negatives in some scenarios. And so we'll be adding the ability to filter on those.
My thought with that as well, Trevor, is that it's so easy. I mean, even especially for us ACOs with trucks, I can get goats and small animals into that, as well as dogs, cats, everything. But and our teams likely would too. People throw goats in the back of SUVs all the time. But getting those large animals, making sure that we send a truck that has a trailer and is able to pick up those animals is obviously a necessity.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we went with I think we might need to classify all of our animals into large or small.
Yeah.
And have the ability to go into here. And I haven't thought it fully through, so you guys get to see a part of the process. But instead of species, like we almost need like a large animal to just show all the calls with large animals. Right now, you kind of have to build that yourself, which was easier for us to do quickly. But as we develop that, I think there's some value there to do exactly that. Of like, if you have a big enough vehicle to get large animals, then you could throw in some small animals also, but you can't go the other way.
Yeah, and I think that a trailer required button would suffice for that, honestly.
Oh, that would actually be pretty cool. And that'd be pretty easy to put on the service request.
Yeah.
Right now we have turnaround. I wonder, we might need another one, but we might also just change. That would actually be probably a good idea to just change.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It's just a trailer required, because it'd be better than just the turnaround even.
Awesome. All right, let me hop in. I think we have Janice, and then it looks like Kaylee has her hand up.
It's Candy. That's my husband's thing.
Oh, hey, I know you.
It's me. Yeah, hi.
That's not your name. Yeah, let's get Janice. You said clarifying you debrief under the drop-down add information versus one of the update selections. Yeah, so inside of the dispatch assignment in this actions menu, you have add visit information versus update service request. And so update service request allows you to update the entire request itself versus apply a new visit. It's a little bit confusing because in here you can actually update a couple of the fields. But if I go back and do update service request, you can see this is that more traditional service request field form, which has its own look and feel. So we kind of wanted to keep those separate because we don't want to make debriefing as super burdensome. So we just pulled out the important fields. All right, and then go ahead with you had your hand up for so long.
Oh, it's okay. So I was in the class for like 20 minutes and then it booted me, I guess. So I started late. I didn't get the same train dispatch incident that's on my one here at home. But unless we're not going to use this again, it won't matter. But my question had more to do with the class we did a month ago on the updates of Shelterly. I just want to make sure this is correct. I went and played with it on the training one that Kindle said I could use. If you have 20 bunnies, you go through the thing and you just enter one bunny and then you add the note that says one bunny. And then I printed out the care schedule to make sure that it said 20 bunnies. Is that correct? Is that what we should do?
So on the animal, when you're creating it, when you end up on a page like this, let's say we want to make this 20 cats instead of one cat, there's a number of animals field down here. And
and that's new. That's where my question is.
Yeah, you want to change that to 20. You're more than welcome to also put 20 cats here. If
that's what I
organizationally, I know some people are doing that also just so it's more
I just want to clarify,
But from a reporting perspective, you want to make sure that you do this. And if you see one where this value is not 20, then the reports are not correct because this is what actually turns them into counts in the reports.
Okay, so if I'm on dispatch, and I go back in to look and make sure that it reports 20 for the animal care sheet, how do I verify without having to print it? Because it's obviously not going to print on my laptop to be able to see the care schedule. Because I had to actually print it, which downloaded to my husband's computer here to see the test that I made on that.
Yeah,
how do I do that in real time?
Yeah, so this is the animal we just made, and I will print an animal care schedule real quick, and
so I do have to print it to see it. I guess that's my big question. Yeah, I got that, and it says 20.
Yep, it has the animal count up here, and then here's where I just typed that 20 cats. So that's whatever you type there.
Okay.
But that's the idea. But you can also see it right here without having to print it. So it's displayed. All the same information that's in the animal care schedule is in this block right here. So we've synced those all up.
And that's just under the animal number?
The breed description is down here. So if you're freeform typing it, but if you actually use that value, we put it up here because that is important. So it's right up at the top.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That helped. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. We got 2 minutes left. Any other questions out there?
Can you explain why you named the team name the way that you did?
Aha. Crafty viewer. So yeah, this is actually something that we're talking about. If people have not attended the care workshop, which I know we're going to be putting on one this weekend in Grass Valley, excitingly, with Katie, our host there. This is actually a naming convention that we're recommending, again, or agency by agency. I know some have already adopted it. But this naming convention is actually a cool tool to allow you to convey some additional information. And so historically, we've gone like team 1, then team 2, then team 3. Then the next day we go team 1, and then team 2, and then team 3. Or maybe we name them after our vehicles or whatever it may be. But it starts to get lost because then you find a piece of paper later that says, hey, team 1 did this work. And we're like, great, let me track down team 1. Which team 1? So what we're recommending is that actually this convention starts with 101 is your first team on the first day. So on the first day, you start your numbering at 100. So it tells you which day that team operated. And then you go 101 is the first team for that day. 102 is the first team or the second team for that day. The next day starts. And guess where you start? You start at 201, 202, 203. And so what you're able to do is actually start conveying information. If you find a loose scrap of paper with a team name on it, it's a lot easier to connect when that work was done and do that investigative piece. And then the second half here is actually conveying something about the capacity. And so what I did here is this is team 101, and they have a 1-horse trailer. And that allows you, when you're doing your dispatching, to start thinking about how am I going to piece together, similar to what Katie just brought up of like, okay, what's the capacity of my teams? And this is the biggest limiting capacity, is like how big of a trailer do you have? Allows you to, as dispatch, start to think about it. And so if you don't have a horse trailer, you leave this part off and just leave them team 101. But if you have a trailered team, it quickly tells you that you have a trailered team, and we can make it, let's say they now have a 2-horse trailer. You now know when you see that you have a trailered team that has 2-horse capacity, and they did this work on the first day of the incident. Great question. Definitely not a plant. Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, thank you guys again for joining us. We'll have another one next month.
Trevor, I have one more question. I'm sorry, my mute button was stuck.
Sorry, I thought you were waving at me.
So the new button of splitting the animals, like if you're 20 cats, when I'm on my thing and I split my 20 bunnies and down to 13, where do I find where the other 7 are? How to get to that page with them?
So if in this case, I'm going to split these sheep.
Mm-hmm.
And so now if I go back to the service request that this was attached to, you'll see that you have a brand new animal that exists with 5 and 5.
And you went back to the service request.
Yep. Yeah, go back to the service request. If you split them in a shelter, they get assigned to the same room as well. So if they're a sheltered animal, which we didn't get that far in this demo, but that allows you to split those animals, and they should just pop right next to wherever they already exist. So if they're in a service request, they'll go there. If they're in a shelter, they'll just pop into the room right next to them.
Okay, and it makes it 1 number higher, or the next number.
There's no guarantee on that because it's the next unique.
Yeah, the next number.
So it could be 200 if you did these ones at the beginning, and now you're splitting 6 days later. It might be number 7 and number 200. But it'll have
show up under the same owner, or.
Yep, they get automatically, all their information is copied. So this is the owner. It's a clone of exactly what you had.
Okay.
And we just say 5 and 5.
Awesome. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, everyone. And we'll see you guys all either this weekend. I know there's probably a lot of participants this weekend, or at the next one of these webinars in a month. Thanks, everybody.